Hi chess fans, we are looking at the game between Aronian with white and Sergei Karjakin with black, played in the Sinquefield Cup Round 1, 2018. Aronian played e4 and after e5, knight f3, knight c6, we have a very theoretical position in the Berlin defense. Now we're gonna have 8 training questions in this video to help you improve your chess. And here is where we actually deviate from theory. And in this position, training question number 1, what do you think about this position? What principles should white and black follow? What are some of the things that are important in this position? Okay, so white has a space advantage thanks to this pawn. Black has the bishop pair but cannot really use it because the position is a little bit blocked. And some principles to follow for white is, number 1, when you have space advantage, don't exchange pieces. And rule number 2, if you exchange pieces, ideally do so to get a better pawn structure and do so to exchange a knight for a bishop so black doesn't have the bishop pair. And number 3, use your space advantage to tie up black's pieces, to put pressure on them, to give them jobs, for example pawns to defend so that they cannot move. Okay, we're going to look at the next moves with these principles in mind. Black plays a5, trying to get some space advantage. Knight to e2, bishop to d5, attacking the knight on f3. Knight moves away, don't exchange pieces. Bishop moves back, knight f4, attacking the bishop. Dropping back, don't want to exchange the bishop. Knight f3, rook h6, knight h2, rook goes back. There's a lot of maneuvering here. Knight to g4, knight h6, don't exchange pieces. Knight f5, don't exchange pieces. g5, e2, b6, knight to d2, knight to d7, knight e4, knight e6. Now in this position, Aronian played knight f6 check. And in this position, pieces are exchanged, and white did so for a better pawn structure and by exchanging a knight against the bishop. Alright, after rook g8, training question number 2, what is black's plan with rook g8 and what should white do against it? So one problem in these Berlin defense positions is that there are very few pawn breaks. Black has this extra pawn, white has this extra pawn, white has a little space advantage, and black is attempting to play g4 for pawn break, and the best way to plan against it is just to play f3. And this move also puts the pawns on the white squares like they are here, which is good against this bishop. Okay, game continued g6, attacking the pawn, defending the pawn, bishop d7, knight to c1, bishop centralized, the knight is rerouted, and the king has to move to the other side of the board, so it's not in the attack of the rook and protects this pawn. Black doesn't want to move this pawn forward because it would block in the bishop. Bishop b2, and after rook e1, rook g8. Training question number 3. In this position, if you were white, how can white create any weaknesses in black's camp? There's a plan available here to create a weakness. What is that plan? Okay, rook e4. The idea is to play against the pawns on g5 and h4 by moving forward the pawn on f4. Notice that after bishop to c6, the rook can take on e6, and after takes, knight e5, attacking the bishop, so the bishop drops back, ideally here to protect the pawn. f7 wins the piece and overall material. And if the bishop drops back over here, white has bishop to c1, and if, for example, the rook goes forward to protect this pawn, we can take, and then this passed pawn is very dangerous, and white wins the pawns here. So, and if the rook decides to continue, then at some point we will just push forward this pawn. So the rook has to go back, and then white wins these pawns here. So in effect, white is giving the exchange for quite a few numbers of pawns. Okay, so rook e4, black doesn't really have anything to do against this plan. King f2, leaving yourself a lot of time, knight f8, and now white is taking all the time to prepare this plan with f4 and f4. In this position, training question number 4, is it possible for black to play knight f6? Okay, it's not possible because simply knight f6, check, and the king cannot approach the knight because of the rook, discovered attack, and white wins back the pawn with a better pawn structure. So that's why black can only play the prophylactic rook h1, protecting this pawn, but knight f3 increases the pressure on the g5 pawn and prepares to attack the h4 pawn as well. Training question number 5, is it now possible to play g4? Okay, g4, then simply h takes, and these pawns are very strong. It just gives up a pawn and allows white to just bulldoze down the board. So it's not possible, unfortunately. So the best is g takes, but after rook takes, knight f8, white has won a pawn. Okay, the game continued, bishop c6, king e3, king d7, g4, knight g6, takes, bishop e5. Now, training question number 6, is it of any use for this bishop here to drop to g2 and attack these pawns? No, because these pawns can just advance and then even create a protected pass pawn. So the best that black could come up with was b5, trying to mobilize these pawns. In question number 7, how can white now win yet another pawn? Training question number 7. Bishop takes c7. And the point is that after king takes, this pawn runs and cannot be stopped. So after bishop takes, black tries to mobilize the pawns a4, but after bishop b6, a takes, c takes, g5, bishop takes c5, black is lost. King e6, bishop d4, attacking the pawn h4, g takes, king f4, king f7, g5, h3. King g3 to stop the pawn, king g6, bishop e3 protecting the g5 pawn, king f7, bishop d2, king g6. But in this position, training question number 7, how can white now actually yet improve its position? What should be the next step in white's plan? Okay, the next step should be to create a passed pawn here on the queen side. So h4, b takes, white has improved his position. And of course, if the pawn advances here, black now has bishop takes with control of the queening square. So if in this position, for example, the king takes, then white simply wins. So white has improved the position, black king is just moving back and forth. And in this position, a5 forces the bishop to control the square. But now, training question number 8, last training question in this video. How can white win now? What's the winning plan for white? Okay, the bishop is defending this pawn, but it's so far away for anybody to attack it that the bishop doesn't have a job right now. At the same time, the king is protecting the square, so this pawn cannot move forward. Somebody has to do that job, and now the bishop is taking over that job from the king, freeing up the king. And after king g6, king g4, king f7, king f5, bishop d3 check, the king simply moves over to the other side. This king's job here is to protect, to make sure that these pawns don't move forward. This pawn here is keeping this bishop busy, but this bishop against this pawn and the king doesn't work, so the king just comes closer, and then the bishop has to exchange itself, and then the king comes and eats this pawn, and the game is won. Alright, so really interesting maneuvering game. We saw a few of the principles at play. I hope the 8 training questions helped you to improve your chess, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here again soon.